Give people another minute to get on, and then we'll do our accountability. Thanks for everyone that's on time and ready to go. All right, so we'll do our accountability check-in. So you'll report how many contacts you've made. I love it when it's Monday because you get to count the weekend. And then any appointments you've gone on or contracts you've put in place. Carly, you want to get us started?
Hi, so this is my second meeting with you guys. So I'm kind of just getting all of my stuff together. I started a little late. So over the weekend, I did add a lot of contacts into my database, just like the first ones, because I just got all that set up. And so yeah, I kind of went through all of my like Facebook friends and went and like wrote down a list and then just slowly and steadily put those in there. And yeah, and then I went through all of the Ignite stuff because I just got all of that. So
awesome. Which market center did you just join?
Portland.
Awesome. Sunset Corridor or RP?
I am not even sure, honestly.
Perfect.
I'm just getting caught up. Yeah.
No problem. Daisy.
Good morning. I was actually on vacation this weekend, but I wrote a bunch of thank you cards on my airplane ride and read a lot of the MREA.
Awesome. Great job. Amy.
I added about 3 contacts this weekend and I did go on an appointment and she's ready to go check out some houses. So excited about that. Yes. And I have an appointment for tomorrow.
Great job.
Thank you.
Julie.
I So I made 30 contacts since we last saw.
Awesome.
I have a listing closing today. It should be recording momentarily, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I have a buyer's appointment tomorrow with a new buyer. And just keep working with my other buyers.
Great job. Courtney?
I was hosting 2 open houses over the weekend, and I focused on getting all those contacts added to the database. So that was about 10 people. And one of them is hoping to have a listing appointment next week. And I did like a classic, oops, and I don't know how to fix it. So Mara, maybe you can help me. I was doing my call to follow up yesterday after the open house, thanking him for coming. And that was all he gave me was his phone number. But he's definitely looking for a realtor to sell. So I call him up and we have a short conversation. And at the end, he says, so is it okay if I call you in a week? And I was like, yes. And I didn't tell him that I would call him instead. And I don't know what to do because I'm thinking it might not work out for him to remember to call me, but I also don't want to be too pushy. But Mara, what would you recommend?
I would give him the week, and I would probably, if you can find his address, which sometimes you can pull up in like county records, send him a little thank you card with your business card on it, like now, so he'll get it in a few days. And then if he doesn't call in a week, I just call him and be like, hey, I know we were planning on connecting. I just want to check in, see how everything's going. And same thing, if he doesn't answer, you can just shoot him a text like, hey, I know we were going to connect. How's everything going? Just want to check in.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Miriam.
Hi, so this is actually my first meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you. I spent the weekend signing my contract and trying to read through some of the Ignite packet. I did talk with the person about starting a database. So I've kind of like started thinking about who I'm gonna add on to that and kind of letting people know that I know like, hey, I just got my license as a realtor. So just getting the word out there that I'm licensed just in case.
Good.
I haven't started making like a super official list yet. I was just doing the onboarding this weekend.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the family. Which market center did you join?
Portland.
Do you know if it's Sunset Corridor? Probably.
Pretty sure it's the Sunset one.
Okay, good. Deanna.
Hi, I did have an open house on Saturday and that went well. I did also show a couple houses, and then I did tour some houses, wrote some thank you notes, and I did add some contacts from people on Facebook that I just didn't have addresses or any information on besides the fact that they're part of my group. So it's good.
Great. Good job. Stella.
Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody here again. So over the weekend, I've been working on my database. I've been actually polishing everybody's contact details, adding addresses to certain people for which I didn't have addresses, and phone numbers and email addresses. I added only 3 new people. And I guess I figure out I need to just go out there and meet new groups of people every week, because I'm really having difficulties adding local people to my database since, you know, I just moved here. Yeah, so this would be my new, I guess, agenda to go and meet people.
Yeah, great. Yep,
And-
get involved in something you're passionate about.
Right, I'll do that. And I toured open houses. I went to 4 open houses. I completed my business Instagram account. And I wanted to ask you, is it okay to use email harvesting to fulfill your database, or you can only add people you personally know?
You can, you just need to make sure you're considering them in that like have not met category. So they don't have that same relationship or return on investment per se as someone that you have that relationship with. So the goal then would be to do things that can then open up that door to build that relationship with them.
I see. So it's okay to add them. I can just tag them. They like email harvest people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Cal?
Hey, good weekend. I was able to add a few more contacts over the weekend throughout going to a few Oregon sporting events. And then was able to preview a house. And then I have an escrow or a mock closing coming up here in the next, I think on Wednesday. But most importantly, excited to see Matt's face for an extra day this week.
Awesome. Ismail?
Hey everyone, I'm Ismail Zuniga with KW here at Capital City. I still new. I'm part of one of the local groups right here. So I've been helping here the group in getting some showings in the weekend and one closing today and getting there one step at a time. Yes. So thank you for
Excellent.
being here. Thank you.
Yeah. Abby?
Hello, me and Hannah, we co-hosted an open house over the weekend, which was fun. And I have 2 appointments. One is set up for next Friday and the other one is kind of still in the works, but both feel like pretty solid leads to me. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I only got 1 person added to my database, but I just ordered, like literally 10 minutes ago, just ordered my business cards and I love them so much. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into them. So I'm really excited to like shower my family with like confetti with them. So that's what I did.
Exciting. Good job. I do like them too. Hannah?
I like them too. That I definitely had a vote, and I'm glad you agreed with me, Mara. I told her, I was like, if you don't believe me, go ask Mara then. So anyway, yes, we did have open. I did one also on Saturday. So I had 2 this weekend, and then I did one on Thursday also, but I already talked about that. The one on Saturday was sad, no one came. But yesterday was good. Yeah, at least we got to talk to humans, so that was fun. And one was represented, but one wasn't. So they are interested in kind of, they own right now. They're looking at buying down the road, kind of like a C buyer maybe. But I got to have a really good conversation with them and they want to kind of figure out, they don't know what they're looking for. So hopefully I can get them to the point where they kind of at least know what they want. So I just sent up a follow-up text because she said she wanted to be texted. So I texted her this morning. I followed up with someone else, another lead about a property because she had given me some pretty narrow specifics that she was looking for and something popped up. So I called her about that. I got a total of 14 leads in over the weekend, 14 contacts. 12 of them were leads from a Facebook ad. 2 of them were from the opens. And then I have a showing today, so I'm really excited. My first one. And she's pretty interested in the property. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things go well. And then I added 2 addresses to contacts I already had. So just continuing to get my contacts well-rounded. Yeah, that was it.
Awesome. Loving it. Okay, Irina?
Hi, yeah, so I was able to add about 12 contacts over the weekend, and it was nice because we had a couple of friends invite us to gatherings with people that we didn't know, which usually I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I want to go, and here I was like, yes. So met some new people and actually met someone who's meeting with their lender later today, so I'll call him after this, and hopefully I kind of got to talking with them about what they're looking for. So I was able to pull a couple of things for them to just get their opinion on it. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome. Yay. I love that. It's so funny. I always joke when we talk about building our database that once you become a real estate agent, you all of a sudden have a newfound respect for all these like Mary Kay parties and Lululemon parties and like all these things we usually dread. We're like, okay, here we go. Go buy
Actually,
something.
yeah, that's funny. One of them was a pampered chef party.
Yeah. A point in example right there. All right, Nicole.
Had to find my mute button. So I have been doing, well, first of all, I did my check-ins and sent some texts, made some phone calls. A couple of people that I'm working with are on the autism spectrum, and this is the first time that they've considered buying a house. And so per their request, I will not be making phone calls. They don't like me to call them. So we do like a lot of communicating in text, and they've been really great at telling me exactly what they want. And they're both working on getting pre-approved, which is a little bit of an extra tricky thing for them because they've got, alternative incomes kind of thing. So, with disability and anyway, so also I have been doing some MLS searches for them, and my sister, who is a real estate agent in Lincoln City, has recently gotten really bad carpal tunnel, and she's unable to do a lot of typing and stuff. So I've been like helping her out, and the great thing about that is I'm getting this like real life experience, like typing stuff, and she's like talking me through stuff, and I'm helping her out, and it's like not only am I getting the experience, which is nice, and helping out my sister, which is always nice, but she also, I'm talking her into joining Keller Williams. So I'm going to have that profit share, and she's a very successful real estate agent. And so she's going to put me as her referring agent, like as the person who talked her into like, which I have been doing consistently. So it's sort of like an investment, and it feels good. So I've been spending a lot of time doing that, which has been really helpful. I sent out some thank you notes, and I am designing right now. I'm working on getting what am I thinking? My logo. A friend of mine is working on a logo for me. I'm going to do some postcards and mail them to the PO boxes in Veneta, where I live. So just to let people know I'm your neighbor, and I'm going to do like a picture of my front yard on it, because everyone will recognize my front yard because it's like on Territorial Highway. And so like, anyway.
Love it.
Yep, that's my thing.
Great job. Good. Vanessa. Lauren. Oh, no, here comes Vanessa.
Hey, sorry.
That's okay.
So I held an open house on Saturday. Got quite a few contacts, and I think I got like 3 leads out of it.
Great. That's super successful. Lauren.
Hey, yeah, I was gone. I was in California from Thursday to yesterday, but at this wedding we were at, I got 2 leads from friends there about people who are moving from California to Oregon, which was kind of my hope since I spent most of my life there, and I've only been in Oregon for 2 years. But so that was encouraging. And then I've been working on reorganizing my MacBook Air and trying to figure out how to do the files efficiently, because I was loading these all the documents from DocuSign into Command, and I was told, put them here, put them there, and I was just getting this massive organizational mess. So I've been trying to figure out how to do these, how to save documents efficiently. It's you need time, but I feel like it's really worth it.
Good. Perfect. Trevor.
So I shadowed an open house this weekend, and I added quite a few people to my database on Command. I added almost all of my friends. I got all their emails and phone numbers, added all of that. Reached out to a lot of my close family and just reassured them that I'm ready to answer any questions they have. And that was basically it for me.
Great. Amazing job. Perfect. Okay, well, this is super exciting. What a great way to start out the week. I see a ton of production happening, a ton of contacts, leads, appointments. It's all super exciting. Just a quick reminder before I introduce Matt and let him take it away that we do have the business planning clinic happening this week. All of your market centers are live streaming it, so you can go into the market center to watch it. From 10 to 2 on the 20th and 21st. I would not miss that. Gene Rivers, who's leading it, is one of my all-time favorite instructors through Keller Williams. I have traveled multiple times to go see him in person, and he is just phenomenal. So really would capitalize on taking advantage of that. And we won't have classes those days, so nothing will overlap for here. So I expect you guys to hopefully all show up and participate in that and really put your plan in place now that you have some great contacts happening underway. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Matt Spate, who has been in real estate for over 10 years. And then in 2018, he joined Keller Williams Sunset Corridor and the Experience Growth Network. Together with his wife, Heather, they co-founded Team Spate at KW Sunset Corridor and doubled their production level the first year they joined us. Teaching and helping others are his passion, what fills his heart with joy. So I have no doubt that you'll absolutely enjoy diving into this content with him today and getting to experience him as a human.
Thanks, Mara. By the way, it's good to see you. Perfect. Do I have hosting capabilities? I am good.
Yeah, because you logged in as the host. So
yeah, it occurred to me. I didn't know how else to do it.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So you're good.
I was like, all right, I'm going to go with old school. How is everybody? Perfect. Welcome, 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 by the way. Excited to see everybody. Lots of production going on. That's exciting. And today we are going to talk about Win the Seller. And as we know, we've got how many people, what's the average you've been in real estate? How many people are less than 6 months? Raise your hands. Oh, just a second, somebody wants in. Okay. So a lot of people are brand new, right? So as we know, this market has been extremely hot and what it's been and in the last 4, 5, 6 years. So it's a good time to be in real estate. How many people knows what goes on this time of year? Generally, there's a downturn. Okay, so when we talk about market and the statistics that we have, history provides itself that says the number one week throughout the years to buy is usually the first week of October. That's the best time for your buyers to buy. Just history wise, they get better prices. Prices come down. It's kind of a transition from into the holiday season. So people now are the ones that are going to have to move versus let's entertain the idea. But it's always good to have conversations. So it's great to see everybody on here. I'm going to, today we're going to talk about Win the Seller. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Of course, I don't want that one. We can go with that one. So, all right. So working with, how many people have worked with sellers before? Okay. Let's see. Let me pull that up. Did you like working with sellers? Okay. Now I gotta find the other keynote. Just a second here. I gotta move this. Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, this is the PowerPoint. And what we're doing today, we're talking about win the seller. And when I say that, how many people can see my screen?
Now I see it.
Now you see it? Okay, good. So what we're going to talk about today, yeah, so the best week to buy is usually the first week of October. So as you see, those who had open houses this weekend or the weekend before, generally those are going to be your slowest times. Buyers back away. It's when, as you notice in the market, there's going to be a lot of price reductions. So we're just going to talk about the market a little bit because it's important to know as you walk into your listings what you're looking at and how to gauge the temperature of your seller, right? Sellers have heard nothing but, hey, this is top dollar. You're going to get 15% of, this year you're going to get inventories at an all-time low. So this is the best time to sell. So when we talk about market statistics, it's important to know your data, right? So months of inventory right now is what? When we talk about it as a whole.
1.5 months.
So 1.5 months, that's higher than it's been in a year and a half. Okay. And does everybody know what that means? When I say 1.5 months of inventory, that means if nothing else were to come on the market, that it would take 1.5 months to sell all the houses in the area. Okay. Now, whether it's Portland, whether it's Salem, whether it's Eugene, we actually have a tool that every single one of you should be using on a regular basis, and that's your TMOs. Okay, they should come out and you should get them in your email every Monday, and that breaks it down into areas and price ranges that you can take to your listing presentations. So that's where you become the true neighborhood expert. Okay, and so 1.5 months means that it would take basically 45 days to sell all the inventory that's out there. A normal market, does anybody know what a normal market is, where it doesn't benefit the buyer or the seller? 5 to 6 months. That's where there's no benefit. That's where there's so much selection that most likely you're going to see price reductions. Time on the market's going to go up. And you're going to see just not as much turnover. Okay. So 5 to 6 months, it doesn't benefit. I will also say what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through this presentation. Okay. But I look at winning the sellers as different than most agents. And I take technology into the equation. I think it's something, as technology evolves, we have to dive into it. Okay. When I go into my listing presentation, they're excited. They're all excited to hear a month, you have a month's worth of inventory, which that means great. There's less selection for buyers, which is why we see the competition, right? So to understand the tools that you bring to working with buyers, you can translate them into working with sellers as well. Okay. When a seller, I tell them it's a seller's market, that's great. But with the invention of technology, I would contend that as a seller, your seller's market lasts 2 weeks. How many people agree with that? See, we all have one of these, right? Cell phone, 97% of people have a cell phone. And what happens when you work with buyers? They have an app, whether it's Redfin, whether it's Zillow, whether it's KW, whatever app they're using, it pings to their phone with their criteria, and they say, I want to go see this, right? So more, if you're looking at buyers, you're actually working as a team, okay? So with the buyers, it used to be that realtors found everything for them. Now it's, hey, we're working as a team, and explain that, because they have criterias in their phone. They know what they're looking for. They know what neighborhood they're looking for. Hopefully you know as well, but with the invention of technology, the information gets to them a lot faster. And there's nothing like getting a buyer that says, hey, I found this one. Have you found it yet? Right? So explain in your buyer's presentations that you're working as a team. You're going to find some, I'm going to find some. We're going to work as a team, and the idea is to get into the houses to see them. Okay. That's when we take that aspect of the buyers and explain it to the sellers. Eventually, what is every seller? They're a buyer. They've bought before, and the hardest part about winning the sellers is the emotion. So we fundamentally, when we walk into our listing appointments, we want to take the emotion out of it for the sellers. It's going to take honesty. It's going to take transparency. And sometimes it takes rough conversations. Right now, if you've had a listing in the last 10 days, you haven't had the activity on it that you've had in the previous month. Okay, so now you're probably talking about having a different conversation, which is, yeah, I know we wanted that price, but we didn't get the activity. Okay, so the number one thing when you get in front of sellers is communication. I never lock myself into a price when talking to them. I have a rough idea. I have a high and a low. What three factors people use in selling a house? What are the three factors? We got location, price, and condition. We can change the price and we can change the condition, but we can't change a location. Know if you're walking into a listing presentation where the house is on a busy road, appraisers are most likely going to take 5% right off the top of the value, just because it's on that busy road. If it's on a not so busy road, it's probably 2 to 3%. But it does affect resale values. So that's something you can take from working with buyers as well. If you have clients that are looking on a busy road, this is straight from an appraiser's mouth, okay? And if it's on a busy road, will that affect the resale value? Yes, it will, okay? All of these come up as you see different houses over and over again, right? Same thing. If you're on a busy road, is it important to have that conversation with your sellers? The fact that we're on a busy road automatically is going to reduce 5% on the appraisal process. Okay. I do want to pop into developing your listing skills. Okay. So it's important to note that 97% of people have a cell phone and have tools at their fingertips. So it's not just about what realtors can tell them anymore. It's about what you have on your fingertips. Okay. Buyers find a property, they send it to you, find more information. And actually, I will tell you right now, I just got one of these. And how many people have these where your client messaged you and said, hey there, getting ready. Here's a house I just found. Didn't even know they were looking, but they've been looking, and they sent it to me and said, getting ready to put our child down for a nap. Like to know more about this house. So then you dive in and figure out more about the house. Go to the RMLS, pull the RMLS listing. Same thing happens with listings. Okay. It's important to have all of your data. Okay. Your listing presentation. What does your listing presentation look like? KW Connect. Yeah. Resume share. Go back. KW Connect, as you guys are new to this, has mock listing presentations. So if you go to KW Connect, look for listing presentations. And they give you different styles that you can use, whether it's modern, contemporary, whatever your style is, you can find one to match. Okay. What should be in your listing presentation? One, the listing process. Okay. From walking into the appointment, from understanding the buyer process and the buying process, and what that entails. Because ultimately putting the house on the market is the easiest thing. You've got your professional photography. You've got maybe, cleaning the house. You've got general contractors that may come in and take a look at anything that's half done. Okay. And my listing presentation is simply this. One, it's as simple as, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Thank you for inviting me today. Let's start back over, but I always get there 10 to 15 minutes early. Drive the neighborhood, see what houses are still on the market, what's pending, figure out more about the neighborhood. So I'm well-versed in what's going on in the neighborhood. Okay. You should also have that with your CMA. And then if we have an appointment at, say, 1:45, you go up, always take notes of something that is nice that you can compliment about the house. And sometimes that's hard, right? You're like, oh, okay, we've got an old roof, we've got no landscaping, we've got beat up driveway, stuff everywhere, whatever it is, right? We want every listing to be perfect, but it's not. We deal with what comes at us as it comes at us. So number one, be on time and point out the fact that you're on time. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you for having me come to your house today. It's 1:45 and we had an appointment at 1:45. Love what you've done to the house. Love the landscaping. Looks like you just put some fresh bark dust in and you're getting ready to sell. Okay. May I come in? And I do always say, hi, this is I'm Matt Spade with Team Spade at Keller Williams Sunset Corridor. Introduce yourself. Don't assume that they know. Okay. Walk in, always take off your shoes or have booties with you. Okay. wait for them to direct you to say that's okay or not okay, but show respect. Okay. One, you've got a lovely home. Thank you for having me today. Is it okay if we sit down at the dining room table? And usually they say yes. Why the dining room table? A lot of important decisions are made at the dining room table. If they direct you to the couch, sit at the couch, right? It's their home. Let them lead, but try to push them in the way that where you want to go. Okay. Great. One thing I always do is I always have the listing packet and I always have seller's disclosures. I've heard of some agents that have seller reviews where they hand out at this point, but and one of the things that I do when we sit down is hey, thank you for having, I appreciate the time. I know your time is valuable. We're here today to determine the three things that, just a second here, sorry. Okay, never mind. But the big thing I would say, so to go back, sorry about that, slide interruptions. The big thing is when you're there, we're here to do three things today. One, we are here to figure out what your motivation is, figure out a price, and three, we're here to figure out whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you. And it's easy as that. As a seller, what goes through your mind when you ask those questions? Or direct them. Question that always comes up is why would you not want to work with me? You may determine that you may want to put your house at a price where I know it's not going to sell. And you're asking me to put my marketing budget, because we are the professionals, you may ask me to put my marketing budget behind something that I know is not going to sell. And it's important that you stand up for that, especially when you're new and growing your business. Be selective. Because you may think, oh, I'm just going to put a sign in the yard. But what good does that sign in the yard do if that sign's there for 6 months and it never sells? Okay, I believe a lot in perception. And we want to create the right perception for you and your brand. Okay. At this point, the first thing, so at that point, we have that conversation. I says, at this point, the first thing I need to do is I need to walk through your house through the eyes of a buyer. Since you're not going to be here when other agents are showing their buyers, I need to look at it from their eyes and see what they're looking at. Okay. And that's when I walk through the house like an inspector. I'm looking at the age of the roof. What determines the age of a roof? One, the year it's been put on. Two, the granules. Does it have moss? Does it need a moss treatment? Take notes of this, right? Excuse me. Is there any leaks around the windows? Is there any stainings, water stains throughout? We look at it through the eyes of an inspector because we know that's what's going to be called out. If you can, as you get going in real estate, go to every inspector inspections. If somebody puts up that they need somebody to sit in an inspection, sit in an inspection for 3 hours and follow him. Ask him questions. It's the best learning you will get. So as we walk through, I'm looking at the age of the water heater. I'm looking at the age of the furnace. I'm looking.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Matt?
Absolutely.
I have a question. Would it be like a really weird thing to do to call like an inspector and just ask to tag along with them, even if it's not your listing or anything, like just so you can learn? Or would that be super weird?
Would that be super weird? No.
Yeah.
One, it shows initiative. Two, if you have an inspector that you know you're going to work with, absolutely not. The worst thing they're going to do is say no.
Yeah, I only worked with one when I had a buyer, but I didn't know that I should have walked through, so I didn't. I just waited till he was done. But now I'm like, oh, he was really nice. I could probably call him and be like, can I come with you? So,
Or invite him to coffee. They do have breaks. They do have social lives. Invite him to coffee or something and have a conversation with him for, for an hour.
Okay.
An hour and a half. That way it's not improved, it's not, you're not at somebody else's property, liability wise, there may be some issues with that, but invite the inspectors out for coffee. It's something like that, just so you get the information. Okay. For about 2 years, I went to every inspection. And I still try to go to most. Why? I can get some work done, but I can also see firsthand what he's seeing. And then I can interpret the repair addendum a whole heck of a lot better. Okay. So as you walk through, you take notes and you ask questions as well. One of the things I do, let's go back. I do take my disclosures, my seller's disclosures, and hand them off before I start walking the house. When I say seller's disclosures, it's part of the listing packet. And what that is it's everything that the sellers know about the house, that when the buyers make an offer, you send these disclosures over to the buyers. Okay. And it's a lot of things like, do you have the authority to sell the house? Do you have, does it have water? Are there any known problems, plumbing wise? Does it have an HOA? So it's all of these questions. And the first things I would tell you guys to do is take time to read the contracts. Take time to read the listing contract. Understand it's real easy to overthink it and realize that it doesn't take much to fill out. Okay. So when you hand out the disclosures, it's a simple, hey, I know your time is valuable. My time is valuable as well. I brought the disclosures so that when you list with me, that this will save us time when we fill out the paperwork. Always be closing. ABC, always be closing. Subliminally send messages to them that they're going to list with you. And it's the hardest thing to do as an agent. Even to this day, it's the hardest thing to do is to tell them you're going to list with me. Right? Plus, the other reason I do this is then when I get back to the table and I've taken all my notes and I've walked through the house and I sit down, I look at how much of the disclosures they filled out. That's an indication of if they're going to list with me. If they start working on it, then hey, you have 10 seconds to impress them to sit them down and impress them to where they're thinking about listing. Most people list with the first agent they come in contact with. Some people interview 3, some people interview 5. Those are fun, right? But how do you set yourself apart? Okay. The idea of competing for a listing is not fun. Six months, I'll give you guys a personal story. I'll lighten it up a little bit, but 6 months after getting to Keller Williams and going through Ignite the first time, I had a listing. It was a referral from a friend, and they were going to interview 3 different agents. I didn't know who they were. And I sat down and went through the Ignite listing presentation, set everything up, showed up to their house, gave them a tutorial, walked into their house, went through the listing presentation, and quickly figured out that I was going against somebody from Keller Williams as well, because of the questions they asked. How many people are on your team? Right? As we moved forward, one of the things that I do is I use technology as well. Once I'm done with the walkthrough, I come back to the table and I ask them simply, where do they want to move? What's their timeline? What's your motivation for picking up the phone and calling? Or maybe it should be you lead generating and maybe you picked up the phone and called. What's the reason we have this meeting today? Where do you want to go? How fast do you want to get there? What do you do if somebody says, I want to buy a house, but I have to sell my house and I don't know where to buy? And I'm not going to put my house on the market until we find what I'm looking for. By the way, we cover this in scripts from 8:20 Tuesday through Fridays on the Zoom link that you get from your agent services division. Okay.
Yay for morning scripts.
Which is what Cal was talking about. I teach, and we cover a lot of this, and we role play, and we talk about these strategies. What do you do if you want to up your game and get into business faster? Attend scripts. Set your alarm for 8 o'clock. Be there by 8:20. It is learning the market of the moments, overcoming objections, and just getting more comfortable with any questions. See, our biggest fear as new agents is that this is about us. How many people are afraid they don't know enough? They're not going to be able to answer questions that somebody's going to have. So instead of mastering their craft, that they can then answer the questions, or maybe you don't ever answer the question. Maybe you just ask another question. Cal, how valuable is scripts to you?
That's the way I like to start each morning. I'm a big fan of, because it's not just like reading over scripts that you think you might need to change later anyways. It's about just getting comfortable and knowing the topics and practicing talking about it. And I think that's the biggest thing why I appreciate your scripts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on Zoom, it doesn't work when you get in there and read it over 5 times and do all it's just becomes so understanding why we use a script, how we use a script, when we're going to use a script. Okay. There's my shameless plug. Okay. So going back to the listing presentation, when you sit down, always point something nice out that they've done. I love that what you've done in the master bedroom. Yes, scripts are Tuesday through Friday. And it's through my Zoom room which is, oh, I don't even know off the top of my head anymore. Real quick, it is 526-049-8196. Go to Zoom, hit join. Yeah, Mara could always send the link too, but that will get you to scripts. And it's something that if you just want to master your craft and understand that this isn't about you, that this is about them and getting them your clients and where they want to go. Okay. It takes away the fear. If somebody asks you, you walk into your listing presentation and they lead your clients lead the meeting, and they ask you, how long have you been in business? What do you tell them? Anybody got a good answer? See, it's
Long
okay.
enough to know what I'm talking about.
What's that?
I said long enough to know what I'm talking about, but that doesn't work if they're leading. You
Right,
have to
that's-
lead the meeting.
And that's why you lead the meeting. Those who ask the most questions control the conversation. And this will give you a leg up. If somebody asks me how long I've been in the business, what's important to you when you're working with an agent? Ask another question. What's important about that? All they need to know is how you know how to sell a house. Yeah, Nicole.
One of the things that I have said a few times now is, I'm fairly new, or I'm fairly fresh to real estate, but I'm working with Keller Williams really just gives me like the resources of decades of experience, and I have so many agents that I work with that are right there to help me out if I need anything. So really, it's not just my experience. I have all the collective experience of and tools of Keller Williams. So I've used that one a few times, and it seems to really go over well.
How many people like baseball? Cal, you know where I'm going with this one?
Yeah, I like the story. Go for it.
We had a team lead. One of our team leads showed up to our scripts in the morning. We were talking about it, and we were talking about this exact situation. How do you combat that you're new to real estate? And he said, and he said, and this was to a friend of his, and he goes, well, I know you haven't been in the business long, but why should I hire you? And he said, and he, knowing his friend was a baseball fan, he says, well, you know those rookies that come in and they're full of passion and they give it their all, right? And then you've got your veterans who've been in it a while and they're not as passionate and they just kind of go through the motions. He goes, see, with me, I'm that rookie filled with passion, but I have the veterans behind me that are going to help me every step of the way to get your house sold. It's the perfect combination, but you're not going to find anybody as passionate as I am about selling your house. Right? I like that story. I like that one. That was a good objection. Understand and where we're going, what your objective is to list the house. You want it to be done in one. Sometimes it's a two-step process. Understanding the, well, let me go back to this story. I'm going to go back to the story that changed my career. Okay. That story that I walked into, it was one of my first listing presentations after getting to Keller Williams. I walk in and I let my clients know, thank you for having me here. went through the script. You know, the first thing we're going to do is just establish your motivation. Their motivation was they had a house in the neighborhood that was a single level that would allow them to stay close to their grandkids. Okay. So in the conversation, in listing their house, I saw that they had already had it on the market as a for sale by owner through Zillow. And I knew what price they wanted because they were trying to sell it before they met with realtors. So it had been on the market for 8 days. They'd had 1,500 views, and they'd had 300 save it and 1 showing. And it had been on 8 days, trying to sell it themselves. So I asked them how that was going. And so one of the things that I noticed through looking at all of these tools, whether it's Zillow, whether it's Redfin, whether it's Realtor.com, all of them come with an evaluation. Algorithms that determine the value of the home based on what's sold in their area. So I told them the first thing they need to do is claim ownership of their home, change it from a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, which is what it was registered in the public records, that it was a 5-bedroom, 2.5-bath, and we'll see if the algorithms go up to get you the 575 that you want. Because right now you're trying to sell a house where the perception is that your house is valued at 530, I think it was 539 at the time. I said, you're trying to sell it at 575. That's a perceived value. Is that going to make people get off their couch? See, anymore, we can't just use realtor tools. We have to use what every buyer is going to has at their fingertips. Whether it's Zillow, whether it's Redfin, now those all change because they're brokerages as well. So they change as the listing goes, but you miss 24 to 48 hours, however long it takes them to pick it up, you miss that initial jump. Okay. The other thing that's changed in the market since then is Zillow, Open Door. You have all of these companies and iBuyers that are offering cash purchases. No hassle. Understand what's available to them. If a client looks at you right now, I just had one that a client looked at me, she's like, I want 500 for my house. According to my CMA, anything that sat for over 450 in their neighborhood sat on the market and was coming down in price. And I showed her that. Show them the different strategies that you can sell your house. Okay. There's one where you can ask top dollar. You may be fighting. You may be having to reduce your price and come down in price, which may cost them money in the long run. And this is where I get a lot of people to laugh. Ready? Here's the question. How long is a seller's market? And I tell every single one of my sellers this. Cal, how long is the seller's market?
5 days.
5 days. Your go time to sell that house is 5 days. All we do is interpret the market. How many people think that's ridiculous? This changes the way we do things. And if it's not sold in the first 5 days, the market's telling you something. At that time, you're probably not going to get that price. I always give them, hey, we'll get 2 weekends. If we don't sell at list price or above, that's your time. Okay. That's your time to sell the house for the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. See, people like instant gratification. And that's what this provides. Pings to their phone, they look down, they open it up, fits the criteria, boom, open it up. They look at the evaluation, they look at the pictures first, they look at the evaluation second, and they decide right then and there, do I need to go to it or do I not need to go see it? Fundamentally, if I'm trying to sell a house at 575, but all the algorithms that every buyer can see say 540, is there an urgency to get off the chair? Get off the couch? No. And that's dealing with buyer's perception. Now take that to your listing presentation. See, buyers have these tools and we need to work with them. So one, claim the home. Claim your listing on Zillow. Have them claim it. Now follow it up that they're a brokerage and they will reach out to you. And I only tell them to do this after I have a signed agreement. But I tell them to claim their home or I claim it for them. And change the records to what it's supposed to be, what the actual house is. Is it a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, or is it a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, this might be dumb. I don't know.
There are no dumb questions. And if
Wow.
you have questions and I'm confusing you, please speak up and ask.
Okay, so does Zillow just like pull county records and then put that home? How does that work?
Okay,
So what do you mean by when you say claim it? What do you mean by that?
claim it, go in and change, make sure that the data is right. Buyers look for 4 different things. They look for bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and lot size. Those are their main components.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the address could just be on Zillow and
Mhm.
it could have the incorrect information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They were pulling it from public records. If it's not recorded correctly, we're all human. We make mistakes, right?
Okay.
So this house was a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. In walking it, I saw that it was a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. And so when I sat down with them at the end of the walkthrough, I sat down with them and I said, look, you've got a great house. I said, but right now we're fighting public perception. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, right now you're a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, so we have to fix that. So claim your house and we'll see where the algorithms take us.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we didn't have time to see where the algorithms were going to take us because the house that they wanted in the neighborhood had just reduced their price to a point where I knew it was going to sell. So matching their motivation, another question, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think what Hannah was wondering about is, so all houses are on Zillow. They're just, some aren't for sale. So you can go to your house and you can hit edit and it'll say, is this your house? Claim your house.
Yep.
And then you can claim your house.
Okay, yes, that was what I was trying to comprehend. I didn't understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Yes, claim the house. Have the owners claim the house. Any more, they're a brokerage. Courtney, go ahead.
Sorry. So my question is about when you do the walkthrough.
Yep.
I had an example of a listing appointment where they had done some work in the basement, but it was not recorded with the county. So when I pulled the trio, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And basically nothing in the basement looked like it was maybe done to code. Like, I mean, I'm not an expert, obviously, but what do you do in that situation where, you know, the person basically tells you that they did stuff to the house, but maybe they didn't have it permitted? Like, what would you recommend about that?
Okay, that's a great question. And that's actually probably the number one thing you will find with every house is they do stuff to the house. And as owners, they're able to do things with the house that maybe you don't need a contractor for. The question is, does it need a permit? So if it has electrical, if it has plumbing, then it does need a permit, right? So it depends on the work that was done. And that's the question. When I see that, I make a note of it. One, if you can tell that it's not professionally done, so can every buyer, right? So one, the first question to ask them is, hey, love the house, got to the basement. I know, and these are the tough conversations that I'm telling you that you have to have, right? And that conversation is, I see you started a project down in the basement. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we decided we were going to finish the basement, but we didn't finish it. Great. Did you pull any permits for that? No, we didn't. We were just going to sheetrock it. We were going to put it, just have extra room for the kids to go down and play or do stuff with, or whatever that looks like, right? But no, we didn't permit it. Great. We can't count that, right? And that's probably going to be called out in an inspection. So it can either do two things. One, go through the proper channels and finish in it, because it will add value, right? If you're in a position, do you have any money that you want to finish that? Because that will add some value, right? So we're giving them every option. And that option comes down to, okay, if they don't want to finish it and they just want to be done with the house, which is what you find in most of the cases, pull it out. Have them pull it out. Can you have that conversation with them? That's what I'm talking about by some of these conversations, right? Is there a room that they finished that looks great that's unpermitted? How many people have seen a garage converted to a living room? Was it permitted? You guys want to hear a fun story? They're always good. Client, it wasn't a client of mine, but a client of one of my agents that I was working with. He was doing stuff to his house or to his car, and whatever he did to his car wasn't exactly on the up and up. I don't know what he was doing exactly, but the car caught fire. It was right next to the house, which then caught the house on fire. Neither insurance company wanted to take ownership of it. In the midst of it, he figured out that the house he bought had an unpermitted garage. And it should have never, counted in the square footage. At which point then he went back to his agent and said, hey, and yes, when I say pull it down, I mean deconstruct it, put it back to its original form.
Isn't it up to the appraiser to, I mean, unless they're buying for cash, that will come out in the appraisal, because they won't count it as square footage if it's not in the county records typically.
It will come out many different places of the process, right? You've got your inspections, and inspector's definitely going to call it out. He's going to call it out to where it's not code. It's not done right. It's right. And that's something we need to have a conversation with, right? Unless we can get this in as is position, right? And we do that by underlisting and bringing multiple offers. And when we have multiple offers, we actually strengthen our position throughout the negotiations, right? Because every negotiation, buyers have 4 outs. There's offer price. So one, buyers put in an offer. Okay, that doesn't even count. 2, there's seller's disclosures. They can get out based on seller's disclosures. 3, preliminary title. When preliminary title comes out, if they see something that's crazy in there, they can back out. Okay. Maybe they see something from the HOAs that makes them uncomfortable, so they can back out there, on the preliminary title. They have inspection period, and they have appraisal period. All 4 of those are outs for your buyers. Do you think sellers know this when you walk in? Probably not. But it's designed to give buyers the advantage after they put in the offer. Okay. So yes, most likely this will be called out in our inspection period. The question is, what are you willing to take care of? And if we can take care of that now, it becomes less of a hassle. We can certainly wait and leave it and see if it gets called out. Maybe they want to finish it up. Maybe we get a cash offer. But it's explaining every situation that there's going to be an out. And I think that's kind of the biggest key, is understanding that there's 4 different outs and that the buying process is meant to cover the buyers, not the sellers. See, sellers, I used to tell sellers, you're going to yell at me at least once throughout this transaction. How many people like to be yelled at? And that seems like kind of an out there statement, right? But you see, sellers, they do everything to get the house on the market, then they put it on the market, and then they're exposing it to the buyers, right? And then they sit and wait. And then they sit and wait. And if they're lucky, they get it, they're only waiting 5 days or less, because then they're going to get the highest price the market's going to bear. But then they have to wait some more, because then they get to do the buyers get to do their due diligence. As the buyers get to do their due diligence, it's hard because sellers don't have control. Ultimately, yes, they get to decide, but they don't have control. And it's our mind is a funny place to be. It takes us into talk. It tells us about the fears. What's going on? Do they want it, right? Communication is key when you have a listing. Set up communication times. Hey, this is what's going on. I don't want you to worry. This is where we're at. We don't have any offers, but we've had, over 1,000 looks online, and we've had good activity. Okay. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned as is, and I know when I've sold houses, been told by Keller Williams realtors that, every house is actually as is, in the sense that
says so in the contract.
Right. And so as is kind of a misnomer. I mean, it can mean the seller's refusing to do any repairs, which is not attractive to a buyer. I mean, that's typically when you're looking for cash sales and stuff like that. So as is pretty bottom of the barrel in terms of a person looking for full price.
So what I would tell you this, because we've been in a seller's market with 1 month of inventory, we had a lot of people overbidding, right? They were multiple offer situations, and they were coming in and offering, appraisal gaps, 50,000 appraisal gaps, or does everybody know what an appraisal gap is? Okay. They're offering as is. So as is doesn't necessarily mean as is. One, because if you're still doing the inspection, you're basing your offer on a half-hour walkthrough of a home. You've never been in the attic. You've never been in the crawl space. You've never seen the sewer. You don't know what the radon is. All of these things come up in inspections. Okay. Can you see anything that is, the way I view an inspection is as is something we can see. We're willing to accept it as is. But if something comes up through the inspection, maybe it's let's say a sewer problem. Maybe there's tree roots. We have lots of trees in Oregon, right? And I will tell you 3 out of 5 of our sewers come back bad based on tree roots and bellies, right? Trees have roots, they look for water. They eventually can get through a sewer line. It's only glued together. Okay. So how I view as is is one, does it pertain to the health and safety of the house and the functionality of the house? And that's how I usually view it with every buyer, is we're not going to ask for the caulking. That's just general maintenance. We're not going to ask for the little things. How I view it with the buyers is, does this affect, one, is it loan? Is it loan qualifying? Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide. If you have an FHA loan or a VA loan, there may be peeling paint. That's going to get called out by the loan, most likely. It's important to know those. Okay. And understanding that and it's important when you're in the listing presentation to also explain this to the seller. We may get an as-is offer, but it doesn't mean as is. See, they may find something that comes up in the inspection that they're not willing to take at that price. And then it's up to us to do our due diligence and see if we'll give them credit, or no, you bought it as is, but it's an opportunity for the buyers to back out. Maybe it's a deal killer for the buyers. Go ahead, Lauren.
You made me think about one other question. So you were talking about things that are, FHA, et cetera, would be warnings that they have to have in place, so they're acceptable for a loan. And I heard that heating is also one, and this is different than California. So, and I'm trying to understand what counts as appropriate heating. Like if they have a fireplace insert, is that heating? And then that made me think about fireplace inserts. And there's a lot of questions I have about that. And the listing I have has an after somebody somewhere along the line after this Victorian was built, put in a fireplace, and there's an insert.
Is there any other heating?
Yes, there is. There's central.
They have central. Okay.
Yeah, put in later too.
Okay. It has to have a heating source to qualify for the loan. An appraiser is actually looking for a heating source.
And a fireplace can count, and not related to this house, but a different house.
Generally don't count that, no.
And then there's things about fireplace inserts. They have to be an appropriate type.
Fireplace inserts, they just have to be permitted, right? And the other part of that is what type of heat does it use? Is it just wood? Is it, there's a whole lot of variables that go into this, right? I will also let you know wood stoves. This is very common too, not to break away from the fireplace, but it has to have a heating source. Does a wood stove count as a heating source? Generally, every time I've had just a wood stove as a heating source, it's been called out and they've had to add cadets or baseboard or some other type of heating source in the house. Now, this is all subjective and different because everybody's different and every appraiser is different. But the more that we can answer these questions and know, or say, hey, this one stuck in my head. This one, oh yeah, right? It's important to hit as many meetings as you can because we all live through our experiences. And it may not be your experience personally, but you may have heard a story about that. Okay. One of my favorite lines is, every house has a different story to tell. It's your job to tell that story. When you're working with buyers, it all starts with how long it's been on the market. Don't look at something that's been on the market 30 days and go in and offer 30 over. You're not doing your client any favors. If you only have one offer coming in and you're the only offer coming in, don't be the first one at the table and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go 25 over and we're one offer. If they don't get any more, you've just cost your client $25,000. when you didn't need to. Open communication with your listing agents. As a buyer's agent, whatever that looks like. Expect phone calls when you're a listing agent. It all starts with how long it's been on the market.
Can I ask one more question about fireplaces?
I really hope that you guys have more, because I want to explain this, right? It's not that we're off topic. It's just all of these scenarios come up when you're listing a house. And these different scenarios come up, and it's your job to address them and become the expert. Now, at this point, it probably scares you, right? What if this comes up and I don't know? Well, that's where you're with Keller Williams, and we can ask the questions, right? You have thousands of years of experience at your fingertips. We have over 1,100 agents in our network. It's not just about Eugene, it's about Sunset Corridor, RP, Capital City, Grants Pass. These are all resources at your fingertips. Use them. Okay, now go ahead.
Okay. So looking with buyer, there's quite a few homes that have had the fireplaces covered over with either a metal plate or, and like chimneys just closed off on the roof, however that's being done. And I don't, I can understand if it's about, leaky drafts and things like that, but it seems odd how many there are. So is there a history to this? A story behind why
they would? I think over time, people don't like chopping wood. They don't like, because it does take some effort to have a fireplace.
But
right?
It looks horrible when they just cover it over. I mean, if they just put a basket in front of it, it's cute. But if they put
and that's the conversation.
plates.
That's the conversation you need to have with your seller. And that conversation is, hey, presentation is everything. And we want to be market ready day one. So the first thing when somebody walks through this and sees a plate in the fireplace, what's wrong with the fireplace? It's not, oh, this is so cute. This is great. This fits everything that we need. It's what's wrong with the fireplace. So when you're walking the house and you see this, ask the question, what's wrong with the fireplace?
But mine was a buyer in this case. So
and they
I don't know what's wrong with the fireplace. And the seller doesn't know what's wrong with the fireplace. It's been there. Why are all these fireplaces closed? Just because of drafts, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's it's an insufficient way to heat a house, because when it's windy outside, it's raining outside, that comes down into the house. It comes in the fireplace, right? Wind causes a breeze, right? It's whatever that is. It's whatever that. It's communication with the listing agent. Hey, my buyers were curious what's going on with the fireplace.
And there's I don't know. So I guess I just thought, well, maybe I should know something about the history of this, and maybe there's not some story, because I haven't seen this in the place that I'm from.
I was going to say, generally, well, in California, you're getting warm air, right? It's coming in, it's okay, right? And it's not a big a concern, but when you get to the Northwest, we have gloomy days, we have windy days, it's going to make a difference. And I think understanding that, hey, this is probably this way, because with a fireplace, you're going to have drafts. As long as that flute's open, you're going to have drafts. You may get rain that comes down the chimney, depending on the cap situation. And it's important to know that it's not really efficient, because it does let cold air in.
And you can't then inspect the fireplace. That's the problem. It's you could have crumbling
practice
whatever bricks and issues that could be a structural issue, and you can't know.
Nope. And I say, and all I say is this: look, I know that's probably a concern, but that's why we have an inspection. An inspection will absolutely lead us to if there's any problems with the fireplace, and that's why we spend the money on that. We're not the expert on it, but I use that phrase quite a bit. One, it protects yourself from liability, right? puts it on the inspector. They know what they're looking for when they're looking at a chimney. Maybe they have a chimney that's pulled away from the house. Maybe the concrete the grout isn't holding up, right? There's a whole lot of things that are beyond our scopes. We're just generalizing as to what are the options that could be, right? So it's good that you notice, but then follow it up with these are the reasons that we don't let that affect if the layout works, if everything else works and the fireplace is the only concern. Don't let that affect whether or not you put an offer in, because we still get to do our due diligence. And every buyer gets that opportunity to spend $700 or whatever it's going to cost. Every inspection that I have for my buyers is professional inspection, sewer inspection, and radon. How many people know about radon gases? It's a gas that comes up from the ground. It fluctuates. As it fluctuates, they stick a machine in for 2 days. They close down the house. And then they get a reading. If it's over 4, that means the radon needs to be mitigated. And they stick a fan in the crawl space to suck the air through the pipe and then put it out through the atmosphere where it's not as condensed in an atmosphere that works. Ishmael, you ask, what are the 4 ways that a buyer can get out of a transaction? And this is important to know, because once I started translating my buyers and the information that I was logging with my buyers, I was then able to transfer over to listings. Because people with listings and that want to sell their house, they don't know this either. They don't know how to sell their house, right? So to presume that they do, you guys are the experts. You already know a week into this more than they do about selling their house, right? Don't let fear stop you from making your phone calls. Don't be the secret agent, okay? As far as the 4 avenues to get out for buyers, you've got your seller's disclosure period. So that's as soon as you get a multiple, that's as soon as you get an offer accepted, the listing agent will send your buyers the seller's disclosures that they should have already filled out. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is the preliminary title report. Once your buyers deposit earnest money into escrow, they pull what's called a preliminary title report, and that will tell them everything that is on record of the house. After that, you then have the inspection period. Every inspection, I have professional inspection, sewer scope, and radon. I generally don't put that I'm buying a house as is. I will add the verbiage that says we will buy the house as is, except not ask for any repairs under $1,500, or I usually let the buyers check, but I usually use $1,500 as the cutoff, because if radon comes back as it needs to be mitigated, that system to put in is $1,500. So it's important to know that. Yeah, Courtney.
I heard sewer scope, radon. What was the third?
Professional inspection. And a professional inspection will go over everything. And this is important to bring into your listing presentation as well. Because once they're familiar that you're familiar, once they're comfortable that you're familiar with the process, then it's that much easier to get hired. Okay. And what we talk about with professional inspection, they go through the pillars of the house. They go through the plumbing, the electrical, the attic, the crawl space, the roof, the siding, the windows. the furnace, the water heater, they go through the pillars of the functionality of the house. Cosmetically, they're not going to care. That's just paint, right? And a sewer, that's because nobody checks the sewers. So it's important to know, to have it scoped and knowing the cost, right? It's about $400 to $600, depending on what inspections you want. Okay. And I think understanding that going through those pillars, they may find stuff, right? Maybe they had plumbing leaks underneath the sinks and the bathtubs, and then maybe they have a sewer problem. The leaks won't cover $1,500, most likely. But if you combine that with a belly or tree roots in a sewer, that could easily be combined with $1,500. Okay. Think outside the box for your clients.
Question.
Yes.
You said it twice now, and I really don't know. What is a belly?
Belly means that the pipe has settled. So normally they start out like this. And over time, what happens is, because it's just laying on the ground, that round pipe will gravitate towards the shape of the ground underneath. And it may create a belly where there's standing water in the pipe, and it's not draining all the way to the city main.
I have this other weird question. Have you run into like community wells? Is there a community well? Like, do you have somebody specific to inspect that? If you came across a listing that had that?
Yes, I've had one before. Generally what it is, it may be like 8 to 10 houses that are on a well, right? And it divvies it up, splits it up. I think it's this one at least split it up throughout all of the houses, right? But then it's something to watch for is hey, the guy that waters his lawn every day, should he pay more, right? There's got to be something in verbiage. What is it? How is it translated? And that should be on public records, or the listing agent should have information on it. Okay. If you're on a septic system, a septic and a well, generally how that works is septic is the sellers. So if you run across a system that has a septic system, the sellers pump the poop and the buyers usually inspect the septic system. Okay, so they get rid of it, and that way you're starting with a clean slate for your buyers. Pretty much. Okay, so the buyers are so essentially, but that's a negotiating tool. So if it's a multiple offer situation and your buyers want the house, one of the ways you can get an advantage is saying, hey, for an extra $300, they'll, you guys can pay for the pump and the inspection, and it saves them money on the other end. It strengthens our offer. But general rule in a normal market is the seller pumps it and the buyer inspects it, pays for it. The buyer pays for okay? That's important to know. Question?
Yes, I have a question. Just want to reconfirm. So as a listing agent, when you go to your listing appointment, you kind of need to educate your seller what the buyer will do, they will be ordering all these inspections.
That helps. Anything you can educate them. See, the one thing I've learned about this whole process is that nobody teaches anybody how to sell a house. They don't teach people how to buy houses. They don't teach it in high school. They don't teach it in college. They don't teach it anywhere. So the more educations, the more we can educate our clients, the more you're going to be their trusted real estate resource.
All right.
Okay. But don't let the fact that you don't know everything now stop you from having conversations.
So basically, as a listing agent, I will go and I'll tell the seller, this is what's going to happen. We're going to provide the buyer the seller disclosures, then they're gonna do the preliminary title report,
Mhm.
they're gonna do inspections, and then the fourth one, what was it?
Appraisal.
Oh, appraisal.
Yeah. So that's loan quality. That's only if there's a loan.
And
Okay.
these are the 4 ways the buyer can get out if they want.
Those are the 4 ways the buyer can either reduce the price or get out of the transaction and still get their earnest money back. Okay.
Thank you.
Did you mention how much it costs for a radon inspection? And I'm seeing they have do-it-yourself tests for that. Are
They
cheap.
have that where it's like 6 months. You can buy the test for, I think it's like $30 at Walmart or something like that. Generally it's $150, $125 to $150. Same thing with the sewer scope. Sewer scope is probably closer to $150 now. And then it's an inspection depends on what inspection they take. So my inspection company has different levels of inspection. They have a basic, and that's going to be like $400 depending on the square footage. Okay.
But the buyer will pay for the inspection, right?
Yep. Buyers pay for the inspection and the appraisals and the appraisal. Okay. If your buyer, so I'm covering a lot here, right? If your seller wants to leave the dishwasher, let's say they want to leave the stove, the dishwasher, the refrigerator, and the washer and dryer. You put that in your listing contract. You put that in the listing agreement. But as a buyer's rep, okay, as a buyer's rep, you can always write in the personal property, because if you don't write it in, the contract supersedes the listing agreement. So if it's not in the contract that you write, say you don't ask for the refrigerator, and the seller says, oh yeah, you didn't ask for it, so we sold it. Chances are you may buy your buyer a refrigerator. It's a good chance. Okay. If they, in your listing contract, if they do put it in, make sure you make a note of it somewhere. You're leaving the refrigerator and the washer and dryer. I always use the refrigerator and washer and dryer as a negotiating tool for the inspection process. Oh, hey, we're not going to do this inspection, but we'll leave the refrigerator and we'll leave the washer and dryer. Does that make you feel better? Well, okay, we don't have to go buy. That's $2,000, $2,500 in their pocket that they don't have to go buy. Right? They're just trading off one problem they may have or not have. So it's important to understand when we negotiate our best interest in the client with our clients. Our fiduciary responsibility is to our seller. And if we can explain what buyers go through, then we're going to represent our clients much better.
So then it wouldn't behoove us to include that kind of information on Zillow or, excuse me, when we put it on the RMLS, right? But I've seen a lot of listing agents do that.
Ultimately, it's up to where it's the client's motivation, right? Do you want to leave it? Do you not want to leave it? Right? Sometimes
if you pre-list it, then now it's not part of you can't really play with it in the negotiations as much, can you? Or can you still, I guess?
Can you? It's just in the listing agreement. The contract will supersede. If an agent doesn't write in the washer and dryer and they don't write in the refrigerator, then, it's not part of the deal. Doesn't matter if it was in the listing contract. Okay. Knowing these things. Okay. And the fourth thing is the appraisal, by the way. Those are the ways that buyers can get out of the deal. If we can understand that. And here's the thing, when you go into your listing presentations, don't give out your marketing. Don't give out all of these secrets in the process. Anybody want to tell me why?
It might not list with you and do for sale by owner and steal all your marketing.
Somebody comes to scripts practice. Nothing like walking in, giving them everything. It went great. You felt good. You were knowledgeable. You gave them all your knowledge. And then you see them put it on for sale by owner. Not till you have the listing presentation, not till you have the listing signed. Okay.
So when I have a question, when you meet the seller, should I specify or ask him or her, are you planning to take a refrigerator and washer and dryer with you? Or?
Yeah, as you're walking and taking notes, just write a question down that says, one, where are you going? Right. So when you sit down at the table, so now let's go back to the table. Okay. This could be a 12-hour class, and I would just have you ready to go tomorrow, right? Because there's a lot to this, and the whole process. And honestly, I don't know it all. One, there's something that always comes up that I don't know, that I have to do research, right? Don't be afraid to take something on that you don't know, because you can always learn it. I had somebody just ask me, do you know how to sell a floating home? Sure I do. No, I don't, but I do. And I know more about floating homes now than I've ever wanted to know, right? So don't be afraid to jump in, right? Ask the questions. So for your question, as far as jumping in, 100%. Ask them the question. So once you sit down at the table, you've walked the house, you've sat down, you glance over, see how much of the disclosures they've filled out. If they're 3 or 4 pages in, there's a good chance you've just landed the listing. Great, thank you for trusting me to walk through your house. Love it. This is absolutely phenomenal. I'm excited. You have a great house. Okay, let me ask you, let's start by this. What's your motivation? Where do you want to go? Cal, where do you want to move?
I want to move to a bigger house on the other side of the river.
Okay. Well, now I see this one's 4-bedroom, 2-bath. What do you have? Do you currently have a buyer's rep? Are you currently represented? You don't. Great. So you're gonna need help on buying on the other side?
Yeah, I believe I will.
Great. I'd love to help you with that as well. Okay. What are your concerns when you want to buy on the other side of the river? What are your concerns?
Well, mostly I'm just trying to be closer to work, and probably in a better school district for the kids as well. So those are kind of the 2 main things I'm looking at.
Okay. And you've got a 4-bedroom, 2-bath here. What are we looking at on the other side?
5-bedroom. We got 3 kids and are thinking about 1 more, or we could have an office. So we're hoping to do 5 bedrooms for the next place.
Okay.
Having an extra bathroom doesn't hurt either.
Okay. And do you have financing in place for the other one?
We've started talking to a lender, but it's not quite set up yet.
Okay, perfect. So basically the good thing is you've had conversations with the lender. You'll need 4 items to get approved. Okay, that's going to be your W-2s, your bank statements, your pay stubs, and 2 years of taxes. Okay, once you turn those in, they'll let you know that it's automatically that they're approved, that you are approved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When is your timeline to buy?
It's not necessarily in a huge rush, but I am currently working on the other side of the river now. So, I mean, I guess the sooner the better, but so I will need to sell this house in order to buy the next one. So I would say when we sell this is probably a bigger question of the timeline.
Okay. Are you more concerned with the buy side on the other side, or you want to list this one first?
Well, I'd like it to go kind of coincide, just to make sure that we're able to move out of this house and get into the next house within the same closing window.
Well, and I think that's great. Okay, I think that's well thought out. Why? In a hot market, we want to put you in the best position to buy on the other side. And the only way to do that is to actually put your house on the market if you're using the money from your house to strengthen your position when you put in an offer on the other side. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as that goes, we're coming into a market where that may not be a bad thing, because we are slowing down a little bit. Okay. And generally it depends on what you're looking for and what we can find. So I can actually, when we're done with this, I can add a search criteria into the RMLS and show you what's out there at this moment. How would you like that?
That sounds great.
Okay, so as far as this goes, we know you need more space. Are you going to take the refrigerator with you?
I guess it would depend on the other house, but we do like our fridge. So yeah, if it.
Okay, so we'll leave that as a negotiating tool. If you get offered 50,000 over, then you might be able to willing to part with the refrigerator and the washer, dryer, and whatever, right? All of these are negotiating tools.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So first things first, we talk about listing the house. Sooner is better than later. You want to get a closer commute to work. I understand that completely. Okay. One of the things we're going to have to do in this situation is we are going to have to protect you so you don't become homeless. Okay.
That sounds great.
Okay. So we're going to protect you, a seller, to find suitable housing. And we're going to put that so every buyer that looks at your house knows they're going to have to work with you on finding your replacement property.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so what that looks like is this. Okay, a buyer can offer you rent back to stay in your place for free, or they can charge you their PITI,
Okay.
which is your monthly payment, property taxes, and insurance. Okay, and you just pay their payment.
Okay.
If we do this right, we can put you in the best position, which is maybe free for up to 59 days
Okay.
after close.
You said free as in not paying those PTI?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And what that looks like is more conservative on the price range, on the pricing.
Okay.
So instead of maybe listing at top dollar, we maybe list a little bit undervalued to bring more activity. So therefore we can enhance our chances of getting multiple offer situation, and they will compete and they will offer you. One of the things we can ask for is free. Is free. What do you call it? Oh, come on. Free rent back. There we go.
Gotcha.
Okay. So one, we want to put you in the best position, right? Because here's the thing. Once we put your house live on the market, then we can start looking at houses on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're selling your house on one aspect, and then we're still looking. And every time you go through the process, every time, once your house goes pending, you're no longer in a bumpable buyer status. Okay, a bumpable buyer is when you have a contingency in your offer that you have to sell your house to buy the next one.
Okay.
Okay. But if you're pending, it doesn't go bumpable buyer. It just goes pending. So nobody else. Bumpable buyer, you're still on the market. Pending, the house is not on the market.
Okay.
Okay. And that's as long as you have an offer on your house. Okay. So our goal is actually going to be to get your house under contract in 5 days.
Wow.
Okay. And that's establishing a price that you and I can both agree on that's going to be the best to work with. Do you have any idea what your house is worth?
Last I think I had checked in a little bit, and it looked like it was about 550.
Okay. Where did you check?
Zillow, and I think maybe one or two other things on the internet.
Well, I'm glad you look at Zillow. Okay. We do need to keep that in mind. One, that is a determining factor on the price point. Okay. How do you feel about that price point?
Personally, I would like to get a little bit more. I was kind of hoping to get closer up to 560, 570.
Okay. And you're going to throw all of these at me.
You picked on me.
I think I think that's realistic, right? But let me ask you this. Fundamentally, if you were a buyer, okay, and we listed your house at 570, and Zillow came in at 550 and said your house is worth 550, even though they haven't been in your house and they have no idea, as a buyer, are you inclined to get off your couch?
I guess a little less so.
Okay, so do you want to work with the 3% or the 97% of people that have cell phones?
Probably 97.
Okay, so good. So now that we've got that 570 price point out of the way, right? Because buyer's perception, if you're trying to sell something for over what the perceived value is, they're not going to come off. They're not going to get off the couch. Okay.
Mhm.
We also have a different problem with Zillow is they're now a brokerage. Okay, and they actually offer to buy houses now. Cash purchases. And I need you to understand that because of the fact that notoriously right now, their estimates are really high.
Okay.
Okay, so technology is telling you everything you need to know, right? This is what every buyer has at their fingertips. I have sat in the listing presentation for those of you curious, and I saw this estimate and I said, there's no way I'm listing this house for over 450. Their estimate was 502. And I know Zillow's buying houses at their estimate. And I actually told him to call Zillow. I said, your best opportunity for 500 is through Zillow. They
Can
said
you tell us why they're doing that? Because I've heard all sorts of
they want
things
market
flying
share.
around.
They want market share. It's as simple as that. They want market share. They want more listings, and they want people to sell them their house. Right.
I mean, they're reselling. Somebody's saying then they're reselling.
Average, they're losing 27%.
What was that?
On average, they're losing 27%.
So what would encourage them to lose that much? You mean they're reselling and losing at 20% margin?
Right. So if I do a CMA, right? So in this house in particular, I know I'm not listing anywhere over 450. But I knew that through the Zestimate that they could get an offer through Zillow at 502. What's in it for me? It's not commission, but it's most likely going to be referral business down the road. I'm just giving them the option and the best option for them and their family. Some people will agree with that and some people won't. That's just the way I work. Okay. Now they called Zillow, and Zillow doesn't buy any houses that are pre-1949.
So then does Zillow have an interest in selectively choosing the price points for houses?
Usually what happens is they'll come at this estimate, say this is the offer for your house, but then they'll bring a contractor in. That contractor will do a walkthrough. On average, they will try to lower the price at least 20%.
So this is what all what do you call them? People who buy and then resell.
Investors, wholesalers
do, right?
Exactly. This is exactly what they do. Now the key is Zillow just wants market share, so they want to. Now I have not confirmed this, but somebody told me last Friday that Zillow has stopped buying in the Portland area. I have not confirmed that yet, so. Appraisal is the last way out. What happens when the appraisal comes in low? Hopefully you have an appraisal gap. So if somebody's writing for over list price, a buyer side, then we're going to ask them for an appraisal gap. They're going to bring money in to support buying the house upside down. Okay, and if the financing fails, they still get their money, earnest money back. Okay. By the way, that role play is exactly what we do in scripts practice.
100%. Yep.
Here's one of my favorite objection. Will you reduce your commission? How many hate that question? Whoo, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. And when we get over our fears of the questions coming at us and that we have something in our tool bag that we can answer, great. How often have you ever done a job where your bosses ask you to do something for less money? Did you do it? How did it affect your mindset? Put it back in their court, right? Did maybe you not put your best effort in that project because you were doing it, knew you weren't getting paid as much? Or maybe there's another angle you can look at it. Hey, you know, I understand this is your number one investment, right? They don't teach anybody how to buy and sell houses in high school and college, right? This is your number one investment, and I want you to get the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. Okay. If I were to reduce my commission, do you think that would affect my mindset? Am I going to work? I'm not going to work as hard. It's proven over and over again, right? Maybe another agent's going to do it for less. There's a lot of that going on. Well, great. Love that agent's. What are they going to give you for marketing? What are they giving up for the reduced commission? Dig deeper. Did you have to browbeat them into lowering their commission, or did they just offer it with their listing presentation? Great, they just offered it. Let's say they offered it with their listing presentation. Awesome. You see, this is your number one investment, and I don't take that lightly. And how are you going to feel if this guy can't even negotiate, or this agent can't even negotiate for their own money? How are you going to feel when you put them in charge of your number one investment? I actually got an agent fired for that, with that line right there. The guy was moving from Vegas, and he was bragging about moving up here, and he said he just got a listing agent to list his house at 1%. I said, you feel good? He said, yeah. He goes, I think that's great. And I said, great. I said, see, it's your number one investment. And you just put somebody in charge of your number one investment that isn't willing to fight for his own money. And there's 4 negotiating processes where a buyer can take you to the cleaners. And you just put this guy in charge of it for you. How do you feel now? Ooh, he didn't know the process. There's 4 different negotiations. This is why they pay you. Okay. All of these things come in the listing presentations and how we prep. Now I've gone way far sideways on win the listing, but all of these things help win the listing, right? Fundamentally, you want to change a seller to a buyer when you're in a listing presentation. Hey, I see you're trying to sell your house and you'd like 575, but if your Zestimate and public information tells everybody that it's not over 540, are people going to get off their couch to come see it? See, we need to find a price that's going to increase the activity. Why, Cal?
What about when Zillow is just truly off on the price? They're just too low.
Off. It is always off on the price. It's 5%. The CEO for Zillow sold his house for $800 less than he listed it for, than his estimate. Look it up, right?
But they're not always too high. Sometimes they're too low.
That's exactly right. That's why we got to make sure all the information is correct. And then you see you can actually see what houses they're using for comps. So
right, because it's the non-tangibles. It's the, you walk into this house and it's a completely different experience from someone, the one next door or nearby that's being used as a comp. Everybody knows it once they get there.
Let me say this though. I want to also, the only way to understand the true value is through your comps. What's active, pendings, and solds. Like-minded houses and closest to the neighborhood. Okay. The Zillow thing is strictly showing him that you're aware of everything that's going on in the market. And this is, or showing them, whatever they're showing, you're showing them everything that buyers have at their fingertips. And we want to put them in the best position to get the most activity, because list price determines the activity. The activity will determine the sale price. Can't tell you the last time I had something sell at list price. I had one listing, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I got 3 offers and they all came in at the same price and nobody wanted to go $1 more. Most bizarre thing I've ever seen, right? It's happened one time. Other than that, they're either going lower or they're going higher. Why? It's determined by time on the market. When you're working with buyers, one of the best things you can do is explain this. Look, the number one thing is yes, I know it's a hot market. I know there's opportunities. But when we talk about the secondary market, how many people know what the secondary market is? Cal, keep your hand down. Secondary market is anything that's been on the market 7 days or longer. Is there an opportunity to maybe get it with less competition? Maybe you don't have to go 25, 30 over. See, the first weekend the house goes on the market, that's when you're going to have to compete. The second weekend you may compete, but it may not be as much. But we have to understand what it comes down to is that every house has a story to tell, and it's your job to tell that story. And it all starts with time on the market. Does that make sense? If a house has been on the market for 30 days, you're not coming in at list price. Find out how many offers are in, right? When you're working with buyers. Sellers, we want multiple offers. Your best time is 5 days on the market. Go on the market Thursday, review by Monday. Everybody who's seen it is going to see it. Your listing presentations. W-2 bank statements, 2 years of taxes, and pay stubs. You see how we have to be all encompassing with our knowledge? And once we're all encompassing, then we can turn around and not just work with buyers, but be well-versed in being sellers. This is how we win the sellers. One, it's about the listing presentations. My listing one, here's the number one thing. Know what kind of client you're dealing with. Disc profiles, have we all filled those out? It's important to know what kind of client you're dealing with when you first walk in. Are you dealing with an S? Are you dealing with a C? Are you dealing with somebody who's cautious? Are you dealing with somebody who's driven? Maybe they're an influencer. It's important to know disc profiles. Why? Because if you walk into a high D, somebody who's driven and just wants it bam, 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 great, send me over the paperwork, I'll sign it and we'll get it going. And if you're like, well, I haven't showed you everything yet, I need to show you more, you've probably just lost that listing. Does that make sense? Know who your, ask RP, ask your productivity coach or your team lead, or go to Tony Robbins' disc profile. Okay. But it's important when you walk in to your listing to know what kind of person, what type of person you're dealing with. Okay. Match, mirror and match. We talk about mirror and match One, have the conversation with them. What's their motivation? What price point do they want to go with? Right now, the number one thing is, hey, you know what? Price reductions. How many people want to have a price reduction from a listing they just took? It's not fun, but when we don't commit to anything other than interpreting the market, it's easy to say, you know what, we've had 349 people look at this on our view counts. We see that 400 have looked on Zillow and we've had 30 saves. And we had 3 people through the open house. How's that for activity? Horrible. Horrible. What's the market telling her? She's overpriced. One reason a house doesn't sell, and that's the perceived value isn't there, that it's overpriced. Okay, so having that conversation is as simple as this. Hey, you know what? Over 800 people have looked at it. We've had 5 showings in 5 days. I want that number to be about 20 to 25. And then we understand where it's coming from. Because then you say, well, the market's telling us we're overpriced. We need a drastic price reduction, or we need a price reduction. Great. What are you thinking? $5,000, $10,000? Well, you see, everybody who's looked, here's my other, how people look, right? We're going to dive into the financing world. People look in $25,000 increments on apps. More people look 425 to 450, 400 to 450, 400 to 425, 450 to 475, 450 to 500, 475 to 500, right? So when you go into your listing and you offer, hey, I'm going to list this at 474.9. You just reduced, one, how much activity, and you've also hurt your chances of getting multiple offers based on the fact that now nobody over 575 is going to see it. 474.9 or 99 cents was an old grocery store trick way back in the day. They didn't even get it for $1. Everybody wants the dollar store. Right? Remember the used cars? Oh, $22,995. You're not even paying 23. Whatever that looks like. We want to put the most eyes on it within the first weekend. And if you can get to a middle ground of 450, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's just not there. So I had the conversation with her that said, hey, we're listed at 465. So everybody who's seen the house is looking between 450 and 475 or 450 and 500, and they've deemed it not worth it. So we have to get into that next bracket. And we may want to think about going as low as 425. How do you think that was received? You see, 6 other houses has gone on the same weekend as her house. And this isn't meant to scare you guys. This is just reality. This is just, how can we best serve our clients, is to understand how people look. If we understand how people look and the financing and aspect of everything, then we're going to better serve our clients. In the listing side of things, they don't want me to be the agent that's walking into their house with a buyer 3 weeks later. Because I'm not going to give them an offer at full price. I'm not going to give them an offer. I am going to ask for my client's closing costs. So if you have somebody who's tight on budget on a buyer's aspect, if you have somebody who's tight on money, Your first search should be that you're looking at the secondary market. Houses that have been on the day 10 days or longer, because the market's already told them they are overpriced. So we can take all of this information and put it into our listing presentation. How many people are on overload right now? Raise your hands. Is it a lot? Do you get it? Is it computing? Okay. The more we understand, the better we're going to service our clients. I love that you're all still here and your videos are on now. So, and I'll run through a presentation at the end of this, so you can see exactly how it works and how fast it is. I can be in and out in 20 minutes. I can be in and out of a listing presentation in an hour, or I can be there 2.5 hours. It depends on the client. I let them decide. I match their motivation. And I think that's important. Mirror and match. Use the technology at the fingertips to the advantage of your sellers. Deanna asked Mara, she should be able to have you fill, or whichever office you're from, ask your team leader or your productivity coach. Okay. Let's see. As far as that goes, then it's just about signing the papers. If you're nervous about, this is what I would tell you guys, work on understanding the process of filling out the listing presentation or filling out the listing paperwork. Once you fill out the listing paperwork, do some dummy ones. Find one that your buyers are interested in or something you've already shown, and write a dummy offer on it. Because then when it comes time that you're there and you want to fill out the listing contract, that you understand what it takes. Dummy fill out a listing contract, pre-fill it out, right? It's a lot when you have to fill in the paperwork for the RMLS. How many people will be comfortable taking a listing right now? It's a process. The biggest thing that they're going to know when you're new is not by the conversations that you have with them. It's going to be when you go fill out the paperwork. That is just as important as anything else. Learn the processes behind the stage. Behind the scenes, so to speak. Once you learn those and you're more comfortable with those, your confidence grows. As your confidence grows, you're able to have better conversations. And if you ever get to a question in a listing presentation that you can't answer, or that you don't want to answer, ask another question. This also works in dating too. If that makes sense. Okay. Those who control the conversation ask the questions. People want to know that you're interested in them and that you have the best ways to get them to North Dakota. Or maybe they're moving to California or wherever they're moving to. Right? No. 2 instances over the summer where I had people moving out of state. And they couldn't move out of state because the movers were so far backed up. There was no way they were going to make close, that they were going to be able to close and have, so their stuff was in storage, right? Know what that looks like. Aspects in your listing presentation. One thing I've heard, hey, stay on top of those things. Look at your Facebook groups. Everybody should join Masters in Real Estate. You should be on your Keller Williams, not just for your market center, but your mastermind group. You should be in the Experience Growth Network. And then find your niche. Stuff you enjoy. This business can consume you. Find your niche. If you like something, make it part of your lead generation.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So at what point we'll need to bring CMA to the seller?
As soon as you get the appointment. As soon as you get to the appointment, you're going to, and there's another class on CMAs, so make sure you're at that one, okay? And what that is just picking your actives, your pendings and solds in the neighborhood, right? The other thing I mentioned TMOs. We get those on Mondays, right? Through your market center. They should come to your email. That's a great tool to break down the neighborhood. So when somebody calls me and tells me that they want to sell their house, first thing I do is I get the address, I get their email, and I get their contact information. Okay. One, hey, I thank you for calling. I can't wait to meet up with you. Schedule the appointment. Okay, I'm going to break out. As real estate agents, you have 5 jobs to do. It's as easy as 5 jobs. Okay, your first one is your database management. How well are you at taking control of your database and using it? It's a way to be in front of people without being in front of people. And that will bring you referrals, and that will bring you more business, right? Work your database. 2, scripts practice. Know how to fight these objections. I want to wait till the spring. Hannah, thank you. 3, lead generation. Picking up the phone and making the calls. 4 is when you have business and they give you business, follow up, do the work. Send them their CMA, set the listing appointment. 5 is set appointments. If we do all of those things, then we get to do the 6th thing, which is the best part of it, which is negotiate contracts. How many people want to go up against an attorney when you're negotiating contracts? I do. Because they don't know how to sell houses either. Okay. The other part, when we go back to these 5 things and setting the appointments and the listing, right? So we get the appointment. Hey, I want to sell my house at 123 Main Street. First thing I do, I Google the address. Why do I Google the address? I want to see what everybody's seeing. And not only is every buyer seeing it, every seller can see it. You can learn some interesting things. They may be trying to sell their house for sale by owner, but you've checked up on it, right? Click on those websites, write down those values, and then dive into your CMA. You're pulling actives, pendings, and solds, and they usually go back 6 months on your pendings and solds. If I don't have very much, then the first thing I will do is add 9 months, add 3 months, and go back 9 months. Okay. Appraisers will only look at the solds. to determine the value. Okay. Once I do that, I write that down, then I do my CMA. I pull a preliminary title report from escrow. So I'll call escrow and say, hey, can you give me a preliminary title report? Or I go online and order it. Okay. That's so I know what's on the preliminary, if there's anything crazy on it, and that the people who I'm actually meeting with maybe have the ability to sell the house. Okay. Then I go to my appointment. I knock on the door, walk through the house through the eyes of a buyer. We're here to just do three things, and that's discuss your motivation, what price point, and whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you.
When you say pull the preliminary title, do you mean Arlids? Is that?
Eugene, yeah, I think that works as well. We don't have that here in Portland.
Okay.
The other thing also, like Portland, so you guys have Arlids. We have what we call Portland maps. So I think that's also important to do your research because it has permits. It says what utility companies are used with the property. It lets me know if any permits have been pulled, right? So it gives you some more information. So also go through Portland maps. Okay. I'm not sure if like Beaverton has a map. I'm not sure if Hillsborough does. Generally it's there with, Eugene has the best one with Arlids. They're great. I've seen them and I'm jealous. Okay. And then the actives and the solds determine a price, right? I give them a high and a low, and it's based on the condition. Go back to the three factors. The three factors that sell a home: location, price, and condition. We can change the price and we can change the condition. We can't change the location. Toughest house to sell is the largest one in the neighborhood. I'll take the beat up house every day of the week versus the one that's in, got a $700,000 house and a $500,000 house and a $500,000 neighborhood. Those are the hardest ones to sell. Okay, so your listing presentation, go to kwconnect.com and look for listing presentations. They have templates. How many people are going to be at Scripps this week? Good. Might get to 3 pages, Cal, which is always fun. And I think, Cal, you learned it from it the same way, hitting Ignite class.
Mm-hmm.
We need to put more emphasis on scripts because this is where you're going to overcome your objections and you're going to overcome your fear. And sometimes we even do food truck Fridays.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
What's the average cost of marketing for standard average price listing for an agent?
Well, you just asked the magic question. It depends. What does it depend on? How much work needs to be done? Okay. How much they want to pay in commission? Okay. I have a 7% listing. Why? That one comes with a house cleaner. That one comes with a landscaper. And that one comes with professional photography. And there's something else in there. Okay. That one can cost me anywhere from, I think the most I've ever spent is about 3,500 bucks. Okay, that's a 7%. You get it on the thing. I would never start out with this program. I've built this into my business as I've grown.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The max you spend is what?
I spent 3,500 bucks, but I get a 7% listing fee. That's all encompassing, right? So I have different programs. I'll do a listing if somebody just wants a contract written. Maybe they have a buyer for it already and they just want to, you know, not have the liability. I'll just write the contract for both the buyer and the seller. Okay, and that one's a 3% listing fee. Okay, stage it. If I have a dual representation where I'm representing both the buyer and seller, it's 4%. I have a family and friends discount of 5%. My standard fee for listing is 5.5. I offer 3% to my side and 2.5 for the buyer side. And then I have a 7%, which means I'll clean out the house. Oh, that's what it is. I'll have somebody come in and clean out the house for like garage sale stuff.
Matt, I have a question. You mentioned you have 3% listing just to assist buyer and seller with a contract.
Yep.
Right. So basically, it's in the situation where seller already found the buyer.
You can offer to run the paperwork for them for 3%. You don't want to do it. Know what your E&O covers, right?
Right.
Our E&O is like $5,000. So our liability, if something goes wrong and we get sued, we're probably going to cost us $5,000. So the cheapest I'll do it is $5,000. Okay. And that's what your E&O covers, right? One of the reasons why when we look at FSBOs and whatnot, we accept the liability. That's the number one thing we provide is the liability.
And that type of listing or type of commission plan does not include negotiations between seller and buyer, because it does include?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
That's to get to close. Okay. Right? You don't get to negotiate. That's all part of the process.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
And it's going to take most likely 30 to 60 days. Right? From start to finish, depending on how much work needs to be done to the house.
All right.
I had somebody that I walked in and we went through a list at the listing presentation. I walked in and I made him a list and said, I'd list right now at this, but if you want to do this, this, and this, and get everything cleaned out of here, it'll raise your price about $50,000. What's it worth to you? Now, I'm not going to do that. That's going to be up to them. But when it was all said and done, that $50,000, we increased $50,000 and we actually got them another $60,000 above list price. It can make a difference if you clean out. Do you want to stage the house? Right? Staging, I do have a staging company, and I will tell you, I haven't staged anything in 1.5 years since COVID.
Right.
People are more apt to go into a vacant house than they are an occupied house. You're going to get more activity. Okay. Who else? I know we're coming up against time. Who else has questions? Has everybody learned way too much today?
No question. I actually just saw an article that I remember you mentioned that Zillow is no longer taking or buying homes anymore for the rest of the year. I actually just saw an article that says that is correct. Zillow hits brakes on buying new homes for the remainder of 2021.
Yep. Less competition, right?
Are you saying that's just in the Portland area or period?
I think it's period. It says it doesn't say anything about Portland. It just says in general.
Because there was some big old thing going around all the social media about them Zillow being the reason that the prices are driving up, and they're doing it on purpose by buying homes in an area at overprice and then selling, or no, yeah, to force the prices up and then selling them at a higher price
The
because of
same
that.
article. Well, and here's what you got to know. Okay, Zillow is a tool that everybody has at their fingertips. Okay, we have to acknowledge that, and we have to work that way. And the only way we do that is by understanding how they work. I wish I could explain the face when you sit across from the table and tell somebody to call Zillow to get the price that they want. They're like, why would you tell me that? Because this isn't about me. This is about you and your journey. And if you truly want 500,000, then maybe calling Zillow, where your estimate's at 502. You may not net 502, but that's where your starting price is. Now it worked out they didn't buy houses before 1949, so they called me back and said, we want to go with you. You were open, you were transparent. You've been great, right? It's a risk I was willing to take, but how much worse do I look if I can't meet their expectations? And I knew by my comps, there was no way they're getting 500. Right? Everything in the neighborhood that was over 450 was sitting on the market for 30 to 60 days. Show people the different markets. Every house has a different story. And it's my job to tell you that story. See, this one's been on the market. It sold. Everyone on the sale side, everyone on the sale side came in and said, this one came on the market this day. It went pending in 5 days and it sold for 30,000 over. Oh, look, here's another one. It came on the market. It sat on the market for 30 days. It sold for 20,000 under list price. Show the different stories.
But can't you also do your client a disservice by estimating the price by, listing it for too little, and therefore you don't.
Here's the number one rule.
Yeah.
Number one rule is you can't list it at a price that your sellers are not willing to accept. Okay. So if you have a $700,000 house and you listed it $299 and you get 500 people through an open house, right? Just because it appeals to everybody and everybody thinks they're going to get a smoking deal. The reality is they're never going to sell it for 300. And they're never going to sell it for 700 because nobody's going to offer 500,000 over this price. So as a listing agent, you're just basically doing it to take other people's clients. Okay. It has to be a price that your sellers, and that's a question that I ask in every listing presentation. What's the lowest you will sell for? Ultimately, the seller gets to decide, but who determines the value of the home? Seller? Is it you, the agent? Who wants to tell me who decides?
Market.
Mm-hmm.
It's how
Exactly.
much willing and ready buyer wants to pay for the house.
Exactly. Best time to determine the value on the market is 5 days or less. After that, then we have to meet appraisal. Or we have to have an appraisal gap. And that's something, whether you're working with buyers or sellers, you talk about. Hey, if we do list at the lowest you're willing to go and we get multiple offers for over, one of the things I will do for you to protect your interest is to make sure that we have appraisal gaps. That if it doesn't meet appraisal at the higher price, that the buyers are going to bring money in and buy it upside down. All of these things help. They help make you the expert that the seller will want to hire. You guys have had some great questions today too, by the way. How many can walk into a listing appointment Lauren, you feel better about it? Good. Cal, I know you could. Confidence is the best. Is the absolute.
Honestly, I did everything wrong and got the listing because that person wanted to trust me. But I have a question because there was another listing I really should have gotten, but they didn't choose me for the reason that we're friends and money, that thing. And I really want to know how you've
combated that,
dealt with that. You know, like, I don't want to mix friends and money. And it's like, and we're not even close friends. It's just like,
well, perfect. Let me ask you a question. Okay. So what's important to you when you pick out your agent who's going to represent you on buying your property?
you're asking me? Because I would go with a friend. I did go with friends.
Who's going to work harder for you than your friends?
Right.
But I had somebody who actually sat me down. I was in his wedding and he sat me down for lunch. He said, hey, let's meet for lunch. And I said, great. And I was brand new to real estate. And I said, and we sat down and he goes, hey, I just want to let you know, my wife and I are looking to buy a house and we're not going to use you. We don't want to use.
Exactly.
They don't want to combine finance. And I said, well, then I said, I agree 100%. I can't tell you enough. I said, but then you better be really careful who you select for financing and lending. And he said, what do you mean? I said, because they're the ones that are going to know everything about your personal life. They're the ones that are going to see your bank statements. They're the ones that are going to know everything about you in choosing the lender. As a rep and as a real estate agent, I need to know how much you're putting down. I need to know what you qualify for, what neighborhood you're looking at. That's it. You know what I asked him? I said, so I take it you found a place. And he says, I do. I did. We did. And they would take their son for drives and put him to sleep in the car and drive around and look at real estate in their neighborhood. And I said, oh, that's sweet. And I said, so who's going to represent you? And they were one was from Texas and the other was from New Hampshire or Massachusetts. Close, right? You know what they said? Oh, we've been calling the name on the sign. I said, oh, so you're calling the same person to represent you on the buy side that's going to represent the seller and who has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. I said, that seems like a great idea. I said, but as a friend, shoot me the address. I want to do a CMA. I want to make sure that your interests are protected. So he shot me the address. I did a CMA. The house was listed it started at 615. When he saw it, they saw it at 550. So it had dropped 65,000 in the hottest markets we've ever had. It dropped 65,000 in price. And I said, so I did some comps and I drove by the place and took a look at it. And I called him back and I said, it's not worth even near 550. And I said, right now, with the time that it's been on the market and explaining the scenario of what I do as a buyer's rep and that I'm a free cost to them, that it comes out of the selling side of things. But I called and told them that I wouldn't even offer 500 for this house right now. And he was like, really? Went home, told his wife. They called me back and said, okay, we want you to represent us.
So for a listing, actually, there's two friends that I didn't get their nice house listings.
Okay.
And I think it's something like, when people know you, then it's not just, so with the buyer, if a buyer was a friend, then part of it could be, I don't know if I want them to see all my personal stuff. But if it's a seller, it's not about that. It's about
well, We're all afraid.
I'm not sure what, like maybe, you know, friendship and listing business just don't go together, and I might get upset at you, or maybe I just know you too well, so I don't think you're that good.
That,
you know, like they know me as a whole different profession.
okay. And so one, communication, they need to be sure, right? But the other part of that is everybody's afraid of being judged. We're all afraid of being judged in some facet in life. It's human nature. Our mind is a evil contraption, right? Seriously, we're new to a profession and we spend our life going, you're not good enough, you don't know enough yet, you can't make those phone calls. How many people talk themselves out of making phone calls every day? Every single one of us do. I still do. That's not what I'm supposed to admit on here, right? But at the same time, it's natural, right? It's saying that we're not good enough, right? But you know what's okay? It's to fail. I call it fail forward for a reason. And we're afraid to be judged, right? How many people, oh, I've got a listing appointment, 2 hours before the listing appointment, I get a text, like the house isn't ready yet. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you. I just want to see it so we know what we're working with, and I will point you in the right direction. I know how to sell a house. I'm not going to judge you. I have seen the filthiest of filth. I don't care. And if you're worried about that, then we have to have other discussions, because it is personal to sell your place. Look, you've invested and you've lived in your place. It's your number one investment. You should find somebody who's going to represent you and show you what you have and get you the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. And I know how to do that. I think you guys are getting my phrases that I use all the time, right? Highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. Selling your house is a pain. I don't want you to be on the market for 6 months. If we list at that price, we may be on the market for 6 months. You guys want to hear a great story? The story where I walked in 3-bedroom, 5.5 bath, they were interviewing 3 agents. And I didn't know who the other 2, I had an idea who the other 1 agent was, but I didn't know who the other one was. And I was like, interesting. Anyway, went to that listing presentation, told them I would list their house at $550, that we might be able to overcome the difference in the Zestimate to get the activity up. And all I need is 2 offers to raise the price up, and hopefully we can get up to $575. And I explained the difference of people looking between 500 and 550, 525 and 550, 550 and 575, 550 and 600. So we're quadrupling the number of eyes that are on your listing from day one by hitting 550. They were hesitant on that price, right? And then I said, normally I'd probably put you at about 560 to 565, but because of the Zestimate and what technology was telling me, I said 550 is the safest bet. They asked me how long it would take me to put the house on the market. Knowing their motivation was that their grandkids were in the area and they wanted to put an offer in on the house around the corner, I should have said, I can get your house on the market in 24 hours. I looked around and saw a sick kid, sick grandkid. I saw stuff on the counters and I said, we have to get it ready. We can get it ready by tomorrow. I can have my photographer come out here. I can get it ready and put it on the market in 48 hours. I did not get the listing. But I used this exact scenario that I'm telling you guys. And I learned that I was going against our CEO, was the other agent, who teaches 29 listings in 29 days. And when I saw that he got the listing, I stopped by his office and I said, congratulations on that listing. And he asked me, he says, he goes, did you interview? And I said, yes. And he said, Wednesday at 2. And I said, yep. And he was like, okay. He said, sit down. So he pulled me in his office, he sat down. First question he asked me, how are your TMOs? I said, they were spot on. 112 listings in the last 6 months, 49 have gone pending in this price range. 40 to 4.9% pending ratio. 18 had expired and they started out at 574 and they didn't sell until they got to 552. And he goes, how do you use technology in your listing presentation? And so I went through this. And I told him I checked Zillow, I checked all of these websites to show them what buyers can see. When I was done with my appointment, they called him and asked how he felt about Zillow. See, why I put so much emphasis on Zillow is I know Zillow created so people didn't have to contact their agents. It was put in, it's a platform so easy that anybody can use and they learn about their house and they don't have to talk to agents. We haven't always had a great reputation as agents, right? Nobody trains anybody how to be good agents. And so I put a lot of emphasis on it because I know that's what 3 times as many buyers are looking at over anything else. And so he asked for this presentation and I told him, he goes, I got a call after you left and they were fundamentally freaked out that they were trying to sell their house for 10,000 over what their estimate was. And they asked me how I felt about that. And I told them I don't care. But he had all the confidence in the world, right? He had all of the, everything done, everything dialed in. He knew his listing presentation. He knew he used his CMA more than he did technology. And he goes, you know where you screwed up? And I said, yeah, the minute I was going against you. And he said, no. He said, bottom line is you screwed up when she asked you how long it would take you to put it on the market. And you said 48 hours. If you'd have said 24 hours, I'd have lost that listing. Because fundamentally what you were telling her made so much sense to her as a buyer. And then he looked at me and he says, you're going to teach this class. And I said, no, I'm not. I don't get in front of people and talk. See, when I got to KW, I had a fear of getting in front of people. And talking. I'm passionate about this and it's changed my life and it's changed my listings, my buying for my listings. I used to be 90% buyers, 10% listings. Now I'm 70-30, 70 buyers, or sorry, 70 listings and 30 buyers. It's changed the way when I started looking at this is a way that I could bring I'm taking the emotion out of it for selling. Emotions are what lead us to believe that our house is worth more than it is, right? Little Johnny grew up here. He's got his markings on the wall, right? All the emotions are running, no matter how long they live there. Take the emotion out of it for the sellers, bring the emotion into it for the buyers. And wouldn't you know it, for 2 weeks later, I was teaching this class. We never know what our growth is going to look like. I was in your shoes. I took Ignite twice. I went to Bold. I learned. I was a sponge. I was putting in 13-hour days. And you know what I learned? And even if I took 3 months to learn everything that I knew, I wasn't going to know everything. But if I did those 5 things that I told you earlier, then I was going to be successful. And I more than doubled my business in the next 9 months. 6 months after that, I was the productivity coach for KWSC. Get in front of people, educate people, talk to them, educate them, have the conversations, become their expert. This isn't about you. This is about them and their journey.
Matt, I have a question.
Okay.
Maybe I missed something. So when you said it's going to take me to list your house 48 hours, so you're saying that the seller looked at it through the buyer's eyes?
No, they wanted to get the house on so they could put an offer in on the house around the corner that would just dropped into their price range. And so knowing that in order to get the house in an offer in, they wanted their house to be, because it strengthens their offer.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Now, the funny part is they didn't get that house, but they still had a listing contract and they still sold their house, and they wound up buying the house next to the house that they bought, that they wanted to buy. So it all worked out in the end. Okay.
So what would be the best answer to this situation? I will list your house like as soon as possible, like right now.
Yeah, let's get going right now. I can call my photographer, see when he's got open. That's going to be the key, right? He's got to come in. He's got to get 24 hours usually unless you call in favors, right? And the idea is to find a photographer that you trust, that you like. Okay. And then put it all together and understand that the photographer is the big thing. Other than that, it's the simple rules of no more than 3 things on a counter, right? Less is more. And what I tell people is this. 1, you're getting ready to move. Anything that you're not using on a regular basis, go through your drawers, go through your cabinets. Anything you're not using, pack it up, put it in boxes, put it in the garage. We need access for the inspections to the furnace, the water heater, and the electrical panel. Put it in the garage. That way, when they come to move, all you're doing is moving boxes from the garage and you're not packing it up, right? Less is more. Your personal paintings or your pictures, put those away. Keep it generic. Have a staging company that you work with. I have one that is Archer and Designs. Here, that is, they charge like $750 up front, and then they take 1% of the seller's proceeds. So they have different varying things, but find somebody who's cheap, somebody who's expensive. I don't pay for the staging. I leave that to the sellers. That can be spendy. If you've got a house that's on the market for 6 months, that's like $2,000 a month, right? And I think that's the important thing. Okay, anybody else got any questions? Who's overwhelmed? Who wants to go get a listing? Every single one of you. Why? Because listings will free up so much time versus working with buyers. Okay, as inventory grows, you will find that you're looking at more houses when you're working with buyers. You're going to need more time. Listings, you should be able to get 2 other activities for every listing. Maybe it's circle prospecting. Maybe it's walking the neighborhood and inviting people to the open houses. That's your chance for your neighbors, for your listings neighbors, to pick their neighbor. Don't take that lightly. Okay. Circle prospecting, get on the phone and call. If you have buyers in the same area and your buyers lose multiple offer situation, be the agent that goes back to the neighborhood, knock on the doors, and ask them if they're interested in selling. See, my clients just put an offer on the house around the corner and lost. They're looking for this neighborhood specifically. Have you thought about selling? I may have a buyer. On average, 2 people in the neighborhood, when they see a sign go up, 2 more go on the market within 2 weeks. If you see a sign go up in a neighborhood, hit that neighborhood. Go knock on the doors. Hey, have you thought about selling? Your neighbor just went up. Okay. Hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this class. I went way off topic on some things, but I wanted you guys to get, it's all encompassing and it's a lot of knowledge. And it's the more versed, go to the trainings, go to the conversations, talk to people in the office, engage at the office. That's where you're going to have the conversations. Anybody know what R&D is?
Research and development, you mean?
No, rip off and duplicate. We R&D to R&D, right? Don't have to recreate the wheel. If you see something that somebody's done, don't recreate it, put your own brand on it. It's the highest form of compliment, right?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
You had said like if you have a buyer and they lost out on one and you go knock on the doors in that neighborhood, do you pretty much need to do CMA before you knock, so you know if that buyer has this specific amount that they can spend? And
well, no, you're just trying to get your sign in the yard, right?
Okay.
So essentially, it's just walking up saying, hey, multiple offer situations, my buyers just lost out, they're really looking for something in this neighborhood, are you interested in selling? Right?
Okay.
They may come in and say, yeah, come on in and take a look around. It may fit, it may not fit. You know what your buyers are looking for, but you know what he just told you, or they just told you? They might be interested in selling.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that's our biggest fear, is that we have to know everything, when in reality is we're just trying to help our buyers at that point. Right? And how we come from gratitude how we come from help is actually getting their house sold. Right? And then we can talk to them about, hey, marketing wise, if I bring a buyer and we don't hit the market, I'll do the paperwork for cheap. I can save you a lot of money. Okay. There's a whole lot to it, but I know it's 4 o'clock. I appreciate everybody's time. Hopefully you found this eventful and you're not overwhelmed. You have all my permissions to go pour a drink, stir it all up, and see how much you retain. All right. So
Thank you.
Go have a great day. And if you have any questions, please find me, reach out. Okay.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll see everybody in scripts.
See you in the morning.
All right. Later.